gonna be talking about cults and like feeling just going through reading these things I have for talking about cults and like a common one is where you kind of separate, only surround yourself with members of the group kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm just lately, since really things started really accelerating with the passports, the in-group out-group dynamic, ironically I feel like we found ourselves staying away from the in-group. Like it's almost like the reverse of what cults do, just because we see that everyone's in a cult, so it's really hard to not want to call it for what it is. Even more so now that the passports are like, guys, your belief system is impacting like my ability to live a life. So it's not like I can just as easily nod my head and be like, oh yeah, the cases, wow, yeah, the cases are so blah 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 bad, yeah, the waves and the surge.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I can't. I feel like Carly and I are just gonna go off the next time we see them, just because it's like, and not necessarily, maybe not quite as personal as family, but it's still like
Mm-hmm.
it's hard. It's hard to not feel like there's a conflict brewing.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Already
told.
kind of feels like it's there. It's just like
Yeah. There's a
it's like
lot of
okay,
tension. What is it?
what's
Where does
up?
that come from? Is that Alinsky?
What's that?
Is the strategy of tension?
Oh, it. Yeah, that also sounds like it could be like a Leninist thing. I'm not sure.
Right. Right.
Um, it could be Alinsky though.
Yeah. I mean, I was just looking for his book the other day and I couldn't find it. And
That'd be a good one to read.
I know I have it around here somewhere. Well,
I
because
just read, yeah.
I was looking for. There's a couple birthdays coming up, so we
Oh,
got
nice.
yeah, we got them birthday basket treats, you know. And I wanted to put. I have this book behind me called oh God, what's it called? Oh, it's called Hope Never Dies, and it's an Obama Biden mystery. Yeah, and I think the catchphrase is America needs a hero, and now it has two. And it's kind of weird because that feels like what's happening right now. But you know, not that they're heroes, but we've got both of them.
Yeah,
But I
the
don't know.
old third term.
Yeah, strategy of tension, a policy wherein violent struggle is encouraged rather than suppressed. Comes from Italy, 1968 to 1982, wherein both far left Marxists and far right neo fascists, extra parliamentary groups, and state intelligence agencies perform
Yeah.
bombings, kidnappings, arsons, and murders. Yeah, there you go. Strategy of tension. Yeah, definitely a Marxist thing. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that sounds like a Hegelian dialectic kind of thing.
yeah, especially when you have state intelligence agencies involved.
Yeah, they seem like they're the ones stewing the pot and throwing their useful idiots around, as it were.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. We got both the birthday people are teachers, so
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll be aware of what's been going on with the teaching, all the. I'm sure they do. I mean, wouldn't you think like wouldn't that be the talk of the teachers' lounge? Is like
Oh,
all the
you mean the Project Veritas?
well, not just that, but all that definitely, but all the other like board meetings that are happening.
Oh, sure. People are just more active now because it's like you
Yeah,
guys are directly impacting
yeah,
my
yeah.
children's lives in ways that were going on before. To be honest, let's be
Yeah,
clear about that. But
absolutely. And let's just say it wasn't going on. It's perceived as though it's going on, which is a problem. Because I think like the people that I know that are teachers aren't. They would rather that be the perception. It's almost like they have a strategy of tension thing. It's weird.
yeah,
It's like it's not even conscious. It's like it's flowing through the subconscious of these groups. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I was looking at the clip list. I think I see we've got this kind of the same. The
oh, we
same.
do.
Yeah. One thing I'm interested to see. You got a TED Talk here.
Yeah, I think I don't know if we want to bust straight into the clips. We can. I if we're gonna do that, the NRM
Yeah.
would be. We can we can start from there. So just like to preface the clip, I think we both got interested in the subject of cults because of current events, whether it's with COVID or the woke stuff, and just noticing cult like behavior and mentalities. And I think a lot of people have picked up on the fact that an adherence to the official narrative of COVID-19 to an extreme degree can make someone almost seem like a cult, like a member of a cult. And so, as a part of clarifying that, because let's be honest, like throwing around the term cult is that's some loaded language to be like, hey, you're in a cult.
Yeah, I don't know
Like,
if I've ever met like an actual cult member before.
yeah, I may have maybe once or twice, but it's never been anything that was really that impactful. I've certainly never called anyone a cult, like, hey, dude, you're in a cult. Like, I've never, because
Right.
you know how that is. Like, that's going to be perceived pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean,
So I think,
it's like being called a conspiracy theorist. It sucks.
yeah,
It
I
shuts
guess
down
that's the
dialogue.
reverse of it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like what you're saying about the COVIDs, it they act to me as what I imagine a cult would sound like. You know, where it's just like
Yeah.
a hard brick wall. There's no way in. There's no like the typical I don't know, the typical just human interactions are not there, you know. There's only three things to talk about over a period of 3 days, you know? Like there's
Yeah.
just I don't know, that you can't talk about your garden anymore. Or like you can't talk about, I don't know, anything really.
Yeah, it's just a rotating series of like what's the scariest stat that we have today, whether it's percentages or doubling or increases. We can rotate between the categories,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we've picked up on this kind of cult like mentality with it, and it's ironic because I think a lot of the time also people on the other side will be like, well, you guys are in a cult because you don't believe it, and you're like,
Right,
well,
right. Yeah.
all right, so since we're both throwing around these terms, how about we first define what it means to be in a cult.
Yeah.
So this is like clip one, and actually it kind of defines a cult, but it uses a different term for it that I don't think I was really familiar with, but I think it could actually be, for the academic minded people, like a little bit more palatable, at least maybe to be open minded about it. If
Yeah.
you want to roll that first clip.
For sure.
Cultus, meaning to till or cultivate, and in antiquity was used to describe the sacrifices, offerings, and monuments built to cultivate favor with the gods. In time, it came to mean any unorthodox religion.
The Roman Empire referred to Judaism as a cult. Some say that certain versions of Islam are cults. Nowadays, most scholars prefer the word New Religious Movement, or NRM.
And many arose not to exploit their followers, but to help them survive in the face of an external threat.
The collective's very sense of self is under attack by the world. And the only way to salvage one's identity is to come together under the leadership of this charismatic authority and to rebuild from scratch. Jesus of Nazareth lived in...
That was interesting. They said the collective sense of identity or sense of self. Did you hear that?
Yeah, like the your sense of self is under attack.
Yeah, but as a collective, which I
Yeah.
thought was very interesting. So the new,
So it's a new religious movement. It's not,
Yeah.
I mean, you can call it a cult, but if you want to maybe try to hide the language more when you're saying like, man, these Branch Covidians, they're in a cult.
Mhm.
You'd be like, well, this is kind of sounding very similar to past, new religious movements, and maybe we go the NRM route. We just simplify, like, this kind of seems like an NRM. just dull the impact for some people. But I think it's interesting. One of the common themes I've noticed in people discussing cults is also the charismatic leader, which is like the stereotype with whether it's Jonestown or Waco or anything like that. And you do certainly see that within the Fauci worship, and maybe people still worship Bill Gates. I don't know if he's like people love that man for a while.
Yeah, I mean, he could do no wrong. His philanthropic, PR. I mean, that's what people saw him as, is a billionaire who's investing his money to help the greater good.
Right.
Over
Yeah, he's
Africa.
the reverse.
And that's
He's
where it
the reverse
ends.
of
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos.
It's not about how he's helping or anything like that. It's just that's, what a great man. I'm making a lot of money. I want to be like that. I don't know. I'm trying to understand what that mentality is like. But I definitely, believe me, we've gotten the heat. We've gotten the heat from about that. Bill Gates is like, he gives away his money. He does good for people, and it's like, that's kind of where this whole cult sensation started. I think during the COVID was when you were talking about Bill Gates and there was just no way in. And we're talking like an hour long conversation where there was just no budging. And, they couldn't possibly fathom that. It's not that he's up to nefarious activities. I mean, he might be. I mean, a lot of people think he is. I might think he is, but it's just the fact that maybe what he's doing might not be helping people is the impossibility. It's the impossible reality for people that are so like wrapped up. I don't know what to call it. I don't want to call them cultists, But I like that we took kind of the same route here, and you found that Netflix.
Oh yeah, you got another clip from there?
Yeah, I got a shortened. Let's hear that definition again. I got the shortened one. I don't even think I got the. I'm glad you caught the NRM because I don't think I did. But let me see what I was going for here.
Cult comes from the Latin cultus, meaning to till or cultivate, and in antiquity was used to describe the sacrifices, offerings, and monuments built to cultivate favor with the gods.
Yeah, so I kind of got like right where you started is pretty much where I started, where it was like cultivate and till.
Right.
Which means till when you're tilling the land, you're manipulating the land.
Yeah, it's true.
You're manipulating the soil for a purpose.
Well, and there's also the sacrifice offerings to the gods. It's a sacrifice. We're sacrificing our livelihood, our ability to see our friends and family. I'm sacrificing potentially my health in service of the herd, even if I don't know if it's going to do any of that. I'm just putting myself out there. I'm doing my part, as it were.
Well, you said sacrifice.
Yeah,
it's so true.
Yeah,
man. And for the guy, because I don't feel anything about that. I don't really feel part of the collective in this whole situation that we're in.
No.
And so, man, it's such a sacrifice. It's almost like people need to sacrifice. And there was something else here. Let me look up because I had a couple other things that were kind of, I think, there was, and this might be it. There was a couple other things, and then I want to get back to like that charismatic leader because I don't think it's Fauci or Gates. I think it's something else. It might not even be a person, but
Interesting.
Yeah, here's another interesting thing. I think I pulled this from the Netflix too.
Within Nixium, there is a secret group. And that's the first time I heard this term DOS, Dominus Obsequious Sororium. That's Latin for master over female slave.
Okay. So that's the different thing. Because I noticed a lot of language when I was looking up this. I noticed a lot of master and slave. Like a lot of things in the cult arena is tied to a master, which I find ultra ironic that the people that are at least appear to me to be in the cult are totally against the idea of master. And I have another one to back up here. Is it like master and love? I thought that was interesting as well.
It is a love relationship. Master and disciple. Something happens in your heart when you see a master.
Bhagwan is my master, and I love him.
Bhagwan's my master.
Love is a healing remedy.
People's Temple was unique at that time. It was black and white and American Indian and Hispanic. We all walked in naively thinking, okay, Jim said he wants a utopia. I want a utopia. We thought we were joining a movement to make the world better.
Yeah. So it's like that master relationship with like, I'm trying to find where this clip is. It talks about people being broken and like cult members being broken. But yeah, I started to notice like a lot. I don't know. I was looking at that. I was looking at Jonestown. They were all kind of saying the same thing. You know, it's a love relationship. You know, something happens to the body when you fear master. I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I feel like in this sense, like what we're talking about, I feel like that charismatic leader is science.
Yeah, it just as an entity, it's almost it's like a leaderless cult, as it were, or a leaderless NRM.
Yeah, where the leader is almost ethereal. It's not anything physical or a person. Because let's be honest, I don't think we could. I mean, maybe we could, but I just don't think with like social media and, I mean, the closest thing we have to cult leaders. I mean, people say that the last two presidents, 45, 44, were cult leaders. Do you agree with that? I mean,
yeah, I think you could make an argument for that in some respect, in terms of a cult of personality and just like a worship of that person's personality.
yeah, because I mean,
to varying degrees, yeah.
Yeah, the biggest thing I hear from the left right now is how 45 is a cult leader, you know, or his followers, or, you know, anybody that doesn't want to get the jab is a Trumper, you know, like,
yeah, and therefore like they're the cult members,
right,
yeah.
Right, and so, but I just don't see him as that. I guess I don't know. There is that Q thing.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, that's probably the closest, you know, and there are some people who are just obsessed with Trump on a personal level. Like they just absolutely adore him. And that's kind of, it's like almost a celebrity style worship. Like, but you know, I, in terms of the impact of that type of mindset, I think you're right in that, and it almost makes a leaderless cult way more dangerous, because you can't take it like Jim Jones. You can take that guy out.
Yeah,
you can arrest Charles Manson. You can do whatever.
Yeah.
Not even saying that the Branch Davidians were like really even that bad, from what I understood, but they probably were. Yeah, but that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But just in terms of the ability for the idea and the religion to persist long after any one person is gone is like way more powerful, because it's the idea, it's science, it's the truth, you know, and the experts are kind of like the you know, the gods, or the people that cannot be questioned. They're the masters, as it were. Like, I trust the experts.
Yeah,
I trust science, and the experts are pretty much like the priests of science. So just reading off of, so this is an excerpt I found. It's from, can't pronounce the author's name very well, but the book is called Take Back Your Life: Recovering from Cults and Abusive Relationships. And it's just a quick list of the characteristics of cults, because I think it's important to have an idea, at least some basis of what we're talking about. So,
Oh, good, because I have 3 clips on this.
okay.
So let's read yours, and then
First characteristic: the group displays an excessively zealous and unquestioning commitment to its leader, and whether he is alive or dead, or she, regard his belief system, ideology, and practices as truth and law. Point number 2: questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged, or even punished. We don't question the science, trust it.
Yeah,
I think
we need a
can
bell.
kind of see that one.
yeah.
The group is elitist, claiming a special exalted status for itself, its leaders, and its members. The group has a polarized us versus them mentality, which may cause conflict with the wider society, or when the wider society is the group, everyone who's not in it. The leader is not accountable to any authorities. The group teaches or implies that its supposedly exalted ends justify whatever means it deems necessary. This may result in members participating in behaviors or activities they would have considered reprehensible or unethical before joining the group. I think there's probably some things people are doing right now that are they would have never considered before, or maybe they were against.
Yeah.
The leadership induces feelings of shame and or guilt in order to influence and control members. Often this is done through peer pressure and subtle forms of persuasion. Social media, flatten the curve, stay home, all the bullshit that shame and guilt and peer pressure is like the most common threads we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can give you anything else here. The group is preoccupied with making money. I mean, it's part of it. And members are encouraged or required to live and or socialize only with other group members. And you're kind of seeing that now, with people saying, shun the people that don't get the vaccine, don't see these people. Like I think a lot of people I've seen a lot of people online point that out as like that's kind of a characteristic of what a cult would do, is to shun the people that don't believe in the medical procedure that's based on science, but it's still kind of a belief system, guys.
Yeah.
So those are some of the most common traits that these authors pointed out, and I think that's the interesting ones are like the polarization, the us versus them mentality. You definitely see that they're elitist and not accountable to authorities.
Yeah.
Because they are the authorities or whatever. And the shame and guilt as a way to influence and control members. I mean, that's clearly going on, and the lack of questioning and doubt. So I think you could make an argument there's a lot of those that are present right now with regard to COVID, and off of that woke, but I know more COVID now. But
yeah. Well, they cross. They're intersectional, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially in the past 18 months, 2 years. I mean, I don't even know if you need to make it. You even have to make an argument that exists. I mean, at least if you're not in the group, and we're talking about the jabbed, the people taking medical procedures, that just the accountability fact isn't there. They
from within the group, you're saying, or
yeah, like just asking my status is, the idea that's private, or it's not something that I do. I just don't do it for other people, to other people. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And then, based on the answer or asking, if some of my family is, or this or that, and then the answer being like, if I say I don't think so, I don't know, and then they say, well, they're some responses I've gotten they're what do they say? They're those types or something. You know, and it's the othering, it's the separation.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
purely disgusting to me, but yeah, I don't. Those are interesting. I think I pulled these characteristics from that Netflix too. It might have been something else, but they only gave me 3, so let's take a listen and see if they line up with.
Okay.
And I'll play one and we'll kind of see what's going on with it. So here's the first one.
A cult is a group or a social movement that's led by a charismatic leader who is authoritarian and who demands to be revered as a godlike figure.
We were taught to believe that what he said was straight from the mouth of God. In the community, as we called it, he was God's authority.
In the community, as we called it. The science community,
Yeah.
the medical community. Authoritarian. The science is not to be questioned, even when it changes frequently, which is fine. I have a background in science. I have no problem with science changing. It's just the people that are saying it, I know they wouldn't know what to do with the study if it was in front of them. They wouldn't know how to read it. They wouldn't know how to analyze, the findings.
Yeah, their science is always changing when they need it to change, because they change their mind about something, and it probably almost always isn't based on any study per se. It's more just policy. But then the science is also settled when it needs to be. Like, it's safe and effective. We've established that. Like, yeah, but it seems like everything else you guys are saying is changing. Well, yeah, I mean, the science is changing. It's like, but it's not the case with that. Like, no, we just need more. We just need more of it.
Right.
Like, that's the only, but that doesn't seem to correlate with reality. But I guess I'll just trust the science. I don't, I think that's the majority of what most people are doing, is just going along without really asking these types of questions, because, well, the charismatic authority said that's the case. And I mean, they've really made an unattractive proposal for people to question. Like, we'll immediately label you this, you're going to be in the out group, you're going to literally have privileges and rights removed. Would you still like to question, or do you just want to trust us? Like, yeah, that doesn't really seem like a fair either or. Like, we're still getting the whole from Friends, like, well, yeah, it's still a choice. Like, yeah, I know, but it's really not like a very equal choice at all. But
no,
it's out of touch with what like, everything's off of the original meaning, it seems, when it comes to language. Science being one of those words. Well, that's religion.
Yeah, that's why I'm more and more convinced, after looking through all this stuff, that science is the charismatic leader. Because all of its apostles, or however you want to call it, I don't know much about the religious structure, but like priests or deacons, or if you look at somebody like Bill Nye, it makes science very charismatic, and not him himself. He has production behind him, even back in his old days of the 90s, or Bill Nye the Science Guy. It was still some pretty savvy production that made it charismatic, that made him charismatic. And he's a goofy guy, and the same with like Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's I don't know how many people I've heard quite a bit reference Neil deGrasse Tyson when they're talking about the shape of the earth. You say, oh, well, and this goes back to like, you can't even question anything these days, even though I think like the shape of the earth would be a good exercise for children to, kind of run through to get their analytical skills, kind of up there, instead of just like, memorizing, how many miles away from the sun is the earth, how many miles away from the moon, but to actually analyze the different arguments for both theories, and they are still both theories, I believe. But anyway, like how many people have looked to Neil deGrasse Tyson and say, I don't even need the figure eights of the shadows, and they couldn't even tell you what that meant, just that it's round, and that anyone that doesn't think so is an idiot, or
right.
Anybody that questions it, or even just, and that's the whole thing. Like, it's not even like, for me, for example, it's not even like I question things, but I like inquiry. It stimulates my mind.
Yeah, well, really, I mean, it should be one of the most invigorating parts of a person's life, is to ask questions about like why things are the way they are. Why does this have to be this way? Like, does this make sense?
Yeah.
All the natural curiosity you have as a child, where your parent eventually is like, oh, because I said so. Oh, because I said so. Like, yeah. That's what it is. And I think that's kind of the equivalent we're being met with the scientific authority. It's like, well, because I'm science. I am the scientist. That's why. Because science said.
Yeah, I said so.
So therefore, what are you doing here?
Science is the modern day Pied Piper. I follow the science into a medical procedure, into my arm. That's literally a lot of the excuses I've heard.
I let science into my heart.
Yeah.
And now now my heart is large.
Yes. Because of the love relationship I have with science.
Yes. And because it's also inflamed. But
well, let's go on to characteristic number 2. I want to see what's going on here.
The group has some form of indoctrination program, sometimes called thought reform.
Or mind control.
It was almost like the operating system was the Bible, and then he was putting all of his programs in there on top of it. And people would kind of accept them because they accepted the Bible, so they shouldn't question the Bible, so they had to believe it.
That sounds like a normalization kind of thing. Like, hey, let's normalize something else, right? Like, let's change people's thought patterns and what their meanings and definitions of things are.
Yeah, he came very close to, well, the guy came in and he was like, or mind control.
Yeah, right.
That was kind of odd. But she said thought reform.
Thought reform, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, thought reform.
And that's a different way to think of it, because, you can kind of see that in terms of like, well, this is normal now. It's new. We're changing. Like I said this to somebody else a couple weeks ago. I was like, yeah, do you remember a time in history when they ever like openly announced that they were changing what the definition of normal was? Like, usually that happens culturally, and then people, like, it's just accepted, and then and that can happen a number of different ways. But to specifically talk about what is normal and say, no, but it's going to be what's new normal, even though it's not normal. Like, there was a clip of Gavin Newsom saying that, and it's like, this is pretty much admitting, the process we're going through is changing our perspective and our definitions of words and what it means to be quote unquote normal, like, which I think leads to a lot of chaos and people who are just going along with it because, I've said when you open up the door to changing what normal is, you really have no idea where you're going to end up. And that's, I think you could make a comparison with cults too, where they're like, well, this is radical, man. This is like, he knows, like, I feel like a changed person. Like I'm, and then before you know it, they're drinking the Kool-Aid or they're doing, one thing or the other. So I think that type of process has been, it's kind of terrifying to go through as a society and to also witness people just like, okay, well, yeah, let's make this what normal is. Like, hey, wait, what did you really ask questions before you change that definition? Like, I know they're telling you that, but like, really think about it. Which I think really flows well into my second clip.
Okay.
It's from a TED Talk by Diane Ben Scooter. and yeah, she's just going to talk about how cults change the mind. This is from, I think, 12 years ago.
Okay.
Just as a
Yeah, let's run it.
Groups that are commonly referred to as cults, the members must leave their friends and family.
I
either
don't
to
think this is
relocate
it.
to a
Shoot.
confined
Did I
living
send you the
space
wrong
with
clip?
other believers,
Maybe.
or the group asks.
Oh no.
Uh-oh. You that's okay. I can pull it up.
Okay, we can do the YouTube route.
Yeah, let's do that. Let me mark where we left off. I'll just cut this out or
Okay.
not. It doesn't really matter, but
Let me
yeah.
I'll share it with you.
You can do that, or
Actually, hold on. I have
what was the name again?
well, I have a clip. Let's see here. Audio cut it? Is that okay? Here it is. No, that's not right. Weird. So you can go to How Cults Rewire the Brain on YouTube, and then let's see where she goes.
Diane Benscotter?
Yeah.
Okay. 10 years ago. Is it the whole thing, or?
No, I'm trying to find you the where you should start up.
Oh, okay.
Can come to the place where it makes sense. In fact, it would be wrong when your brain is working like that, not to try to save the world through genocide.
God.
And so, what is this? How does this work?
So go to the time marker.
Next time you see this
333.
plant in your backyard, don't cut it down, because
Oh,
this
nice.
is the best
Okay.
natural painkiller you'll ever find.
Oh,
Some
yeah.
people even compare it to morphine.
Got some
Now,
wild
if you
lettuce.
Take a leaf or stem and squeeze it, you'll see a white substance coming out.
Oh yeah. $333.
333, and then if we want to pick this part back up, I think I'll tell you. I'll just cut in and tell you where to stop it.
Okay. Yeah.
We're recording, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you just cut it.
All right.
What is this? How does this work? And how I come to view what happened to me is a viral mimetic infection. For those of you who aren't familiar with mimetics, a meme has been defined as an idea that replicates in the human brain and moves. Virus, the way a virus works is it can infect and do the most damage to someone who has a compromised immune system, right? In 1974, I was young, I was naive, and I was pretty lost in my world. I was really idealistic. These easy ideas to complex questions are very appealing when you are emotionally vulnerable. What happens is that circular logic takes over. Moon is one with God. God is going to fix all the problems in the world. All I have to do is humbly follow, because God is going to stop war and hunger, all these things I wanted to do. All I have to do is humbly follow, because after all, God's the Messiah. He's going to fix all this. It becomes impenetrable. And the most dangerous part of this is that it creates us and them, right and wrong, good and evil. And it makes anything possible, makes anything rationalizable.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's comparing it to being the act of being in a cult to having a mind virus that is pretty much perpetuated through circular logic and obviously being susceptible to that type of manipulation. But she described herself as naive, and looking for simple answers, and then also bringing up the point of that she was impenetrable to like she could not be talked out of her belief. And I, like, as we said earlier, this is clearly something that's happening to many people who are what I would call true believers in the COVID belief system, to where they're, you know, you can't talk about, hey, have you looked at the recent, you know, estimated infection fatality rate? Have you actually looked at this data have you actually looked at any of this stuff? Like, I know they're saying the stories about kids, but like, have you actually looked at it? And it's frustrating because you realize, like, oh, it doesn't matter. Like, the actual data, the context for what all this stuff means, instead of like the fear porn part of it. That part, for a lot of people, it seems, ended very early on in the pandemic. And the curve, some people were just off to the races. We're just gonna swallow every part of it. And granted, I didn't catch it early enough in some people, but, you know, it didn't matter. Like, if they were, as she states, like, had a compromised mental immune system, they were going to be infected with the virus. They were not going to be able to vaccinate themselves against joining the cult, as it were, because they just didn't have that capacity. And so we're kind of left, you know, like, well, what do we do? You know, like, how do we break through to a person who has solidified their worldview in such pretty much extreme terms, even though it's become normalized and mainstream? How do we break through to that mindset? And how do we, I mean, it's like, you pretty much have to do deprogramming too, and that's hard.
Well, the circular logic too that she's talking about in your analogy and what you're referencing is, I think the big tech, quote unquote, big tech companies, you know, if you type into Google, like, how many kids have died of, you know, COVID, like, it'll pop up. And this is kind of where you're talking, like, not a strong immune system, where let's say the digital immune system would be, you know, sorting through disinformation, how to find information, how to find, you know, for lack of a better word, like healing information, something that would heal your fears or your anxieties or bring you clarity, like a clean sense of awareness of what's going on, so you could make better decisions. I don't know. It's also interwoven, I think, between the digital and the reality. You know, because like on the outside world and the physical world, I'm making decisions during what's going on right now, but I'm getting all my information digitally.
Yeah.
Because there's really nothing in the real world for me to reference, which is another mind fuck, because
isn't it?
Yeah, because it's just not my experience that there's a pandemic.
For the vast majority of people, the pandemic has happened pretty much exclusively on television, on the internet, and through news articles. But in terms of a tangible, like, man, my friends are all getting sick, they're all dying. Like, personally, I never had that experience, like, at all. And I have friends that have worked in the hospitals. You know, I'm younger, so maybe that impacts me less. But,
well, yeah,
you know, I remember early on in the pandemic, my dad saying something, maybe it was like 5-6 months in, he's like, do you know anyone who's gotten sick? I still don't know anybody. Like, wow. Yeah, you think but he's all in on it, you know, but it was like that conscious, like awareness, like honesty breaking through, where it's like, yeah, I mean, it's weird. You think you would, and then you're kind of like, yeah, you think you might. I know a guy that tested positive, but he had no symptoms. Like, that just doesn't feel, from your senses, from your, you know, 5 senses, that there's this apocalyptic thing happening. Like,
well, maybe this is for another episode, but we're gonna get into it, I think, with the almighty what do they call that, charismatic leader of science, who's finding a sixth sense that we're born with. They're in the works
Ooh.
for that. But what you're talking about with your father too is what she was talking about, where you get in that circular logic. You don't have that healthy immune system, and let's say, I don't know what we want to call the virus here. I mean, is the virus digital? Is it's some sort of meme?
Yeah,
it comes from somewhere.
It is kind of mimetic.
Yeah.
It's a thought. It's like a thought process or a thought system.
Yeah. I'd like to know more about memes, because I feel like I remember first hearing about memes, but it was the way academics were talking about it. It had nothing to do with the internet.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like word to mouth. They were talking more in the sense of like person to person, brain to brain, through words and language. And then somehow now a meme is, I feel like, exclusively means digital.
Yeah, most people associate the picture with the words,
Yeah.
and making a witty point kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's probably, I would say that's probably most people's perception of what a meme is like those things on the internet.
Yeah.
But in terms of ideas, I mean, most things are now coming or originating from online sources at some point, but it's
right.
It's just interesting. I don't my personal opinion is that the pandemic, more so the response and the public's willingness to go along with these extreme measures, would never have been possible had we not had things like social media. Like, it just wouldn't, at some point,
Correct.
the bullshit detector would have gone off.
Correct.
Like, even with, like how TV monopolize people's attention before the internet, like.
Yes,
it seemed like
it was happening, or was trying to happen, with the swine flu. And you know what the only difference is with the swine flu, because that was 2010,
Yeah.
2009. I feel like the biggest difference, to your point, is that the boomer generation was not on social media like they are today. Social media was not as ubiquitous as it is today. So I can almost guarantee you're right in making that point.
Yeah, I mean, think about those early videos of I don't know if they appeared on TikTok, but like the guys dying in the streets in China,
Yep,
shaking
TikTok.
on the ground. Like,
Yeah.
clearly some of those seemed faked, or like, it just, looking back on it now, but they spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Almost like a, what would you call that? Like,
I call that master memetics, because the whole platform TikTok, showing that video, gives the viewer the impression that it's only a matter of time
yeah,
before it comes to you.
right.
I've always felt
Yeah,
that weird sensation with TikTok, like why it's called TikTok. Because then you have
Oh, the clock. Yeah.
yeah, the TikTok, and then I don't know if you ever saw that. I mean, kind of off topic, but it was that Watchmen series on HBO, and like
Yeah, it was pretty well done.
yeah, and all those white supremacists were saying TikTok, TikTok.
Mm.
But you have like a cross, like an intersectional use of the word TikTok. Like, a lot of people on the left use TikTok to reference the reckoning that's coming.
Time's up.
Time's up,
Time's
yeah.
up.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. But then I also think, so I'm thinking like the social media is, maybe the social media is the virus, or I don't know, whatever. I feel like whatever closes that loop, or creates that loop, that circular logic loop that she was talking about in that TED Talk. I feel like whatever creates that is the virus.
Yeah, I would agree with
Because
that.
she was saying that it allows anything to be possible, and it allows anything to be rationalizable. And that reminds me, and it's not just your dad, it's a lot of different people, where he came and said to you, do you know anybody that's gotten this? And so his mind is recognizing that nobody's gotten it that he knows, yet somehow he'll rationalize it into being still a problem, even if he can't see it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, there's no.
It's just like anything. It's like anything you say to them. It's like, well, I can't think of something, but
they're immune to evidence. Ironically,
yeah.
They're incapable of new evidence regarding this as an ongoing like court case or unsolved mystery or thing that needs to be resolved. It's like, and you'll see this too. I mean, I see this in the marketing of the vaccine. I see it in like even the origin story of where COVID came from or any of this stuff. What you'll notice is people who have very solidified mindsets and are cult members, as it were, whatever you want to call it. They're basically going off of old versions of what the official narrative is. Like, oh, I took the vaccine to prevent me from giving it to somebody else, and there you still see this. Like, you got to get the vaccine to prevent your family from getting sick. It's like that. They're now stating they don't have any real evidence that that's part of the benefit, and then it's like, then the circular logic takes over, and it's like, well, hypothetically, by you not getting as sick, and it's like, well, no, we're talking about science here, right? Like, the science said that that's not true, and it's just like this round and round circle where then they'll start either ignoring your points or just using any possible like a thought terminating cliche that like ends the circle, like it ends the thought process.
On their part.
What's that?
On their part. And don't think, I mean, if anybody's listening to this, don't think that the irony of me and you possibly turning this into by identifying cult, we are also us and theming.
That's very true.
We're creating an us and a them.
Yes.
And
in
its own right, which might be kind of a side effect of cults. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I don't want to view myself as being in one group or the other. Like, I'm always, when it comes to politics or any of this stuff, I'm never like, oh yeah, I'm definitely on that team.
Right.
But because the lines have been drawn so deeply in the sand, it's like it's hard to avoid it, like and I
feel like we're just taking the role that they've created anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we're using their language, like we're just trying to dissect it in a way that makes sense. And I think that's kind of where, like, the NPC meme comes from. You're noticing a trend. You're not, and the NPC meme is kind of dehumanizing. I mean, it is, like, because it's reducing somebody down to basically being like a robot or programmed response. And, unfortunately, that happens to come true a lot. You see that a lot in conversations with people where there's no active literacy going on. They're not trying to figure out what they believe and why they believe it.
Yeah.
So it's just like a meaning system. And yeah, in fairness, you're right. Like, we don't want to perpetuate, I should say, the us versus them mindset. But clearly there's
I want to. I have no qualms. I just want you and everyone to know that it's not lost on me. I have self-awareness about it.
Yeah. No, and the fact that we're able to even discuss it is a much higher level than probably most people,
There we go, elitizing ourselves.
I'm not like, what's that?
I said, there we go, elitizing ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, trust us.
Only we can see it, man.
Yeah, and that's the crux of it. You get pushed into that category of one thing or another, but at the same time, it's like, we're, as this being on this side of the equation or whatever, we're able to talk about it. We're actively talking about it. And I'd love for us to invite on somebody on the other side of the argument, but I'm sure by minute 10 they'd be like, you could probably hear them huffing in the background like they're ready to get off.
Oh,
That's
sure.
usually the case with talking to people in this mindset.
I mean, we could include that in the conversation. However, I don't think that I'm the person for that. So it might possibly be only
I
you
don't
creating
either.
that value. With that. Well,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
think
I'm
that's
not looking
true.
into that.
I've seen you discuss things with people. I've seen people thank you for discussing things with them. And
Yeah, when you have success breaking through, even if it's just like a pin needle in a giant haystack of programming, but they acknowledge that they heard you and they actually understand your point, even with such a solidified mindset, you realize like there is still hope for some people. Now, how much you're able to make progress with that is anybody's guess. But I think the most important thing, like that I've been trying to do anyway, with regard to all this, at least on a personal level, is try to understand, like where the people in my life are coming from.
yeah,
Even though I know that they're not providing that same space to understand me. It's always from afar. They don't ask questions like, how is it for you doing this or that, or
Right.
why do you believe what you believe? Like the people that, generally speaking, say I trust the science,
yeah,
they don't ask you like, so why don't you trust the science? Very rarely. And usually
Right.
it's somebody that like doesn't know the prowess that they're dealing with. Not to again toot our own horn or anything, but it's like
no,
they kind of stumble onto that and they quickly realize, oh, why did I ask that question? Like but there's a lot of things on social media and through the media that, like, in general, that just terminate somebody's thought process. It becomes that circular logic, like,
Yeah.
hey, here's where you get off the ride. Just get off here. Don't continue down this path. Just get off here. Like they're that.
Yeah.
They're the
I'm
blah
done.
blah anti-vax conspiracy. Okay. Oh, they're that. Oh, I'm getting off. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and
They've already
that's-
boxed you in, and they already have thought about how they're going to react to you anyway. So
Yeah. Yeah. So
I've seen it over and over and over.
Yeah, obviously that's why there are those memes about, the NPC.
Yeah. Well, that, and I think it's also the art of the meme too, because it does capture that one particular. It does very much capture the feeling.
Yes.
When you're by yourself and you think you're the only one that thinks what you think or sees what you see, and that's kind of the hardest part, because I don't know if there's other people out there that are interested in understanding the other side, or when they see, the mass, mind moving through this whole situation, if they don't feel anything other than anger and disgust, I don't know if those people are out there. I would like to know, and share ideas of how they cope with that, or maybe in terms of what you're saying is how can you actually get through to somebody in that sense.
Yeah, I think we've talked about having a segment on the show at some point of, conversations with an NPC or a normie or whatever you want to, label it, but
yeah.
just trying to break through and like, what is the process for that? And
Yeah, pull a delta on them. Break
pull
through.
a variant of some sort.
pull a breakthrough on them.
Yeah, you kind of have to have a breakthrough case.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they've been vaccinated with inversed reality that's making them just like literally live in the upside down world.
Yeah. Yeah. Inverted, for sure.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of threads to pull on when it comes to cults or new religious movements.
Yeah.
In relation to the world we live in, and COVID's just COVID's one of the bigger parts of it, but I think future episodes will like the woke cult can go on for many episodes as well.
Yeah. I mean, to be, just what you're saying is it's the closest one to us. It's the closest
The
cult
COVID
like,
one?
yes.
Yeah. I think COVID above the woke for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And for now,
but not by much.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, there's still a lot of gap to be filled with the woke.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they really pushed it out there last year, and I just haven't seen too much of it lately.
It's such a postmodern, like it's a postmodern thought process or system that's so hard to explain at times. Like you need a thing to help map out the world to understand what the hell people are saying half the time.
Yeah.
And it's so that because it's not, with COVID, it's a little bit more straightforward. You're talking about like all these different stats and how dangerous it is and what we need to do and all this stuff. With the woke stuff, it's just way more esoteric and vague, and like things mean two different things, and you almost need something to decode what people are saying half the time. So it's a lot, I think, trickier to dissect, although I think we'll be able to. But
it'll be definitely interesting to do it.
Yeah.
I wonder if I got a couple clips here that
Sure.
that might kind of wrap in the mindset, because like a lot of what I was going through trying to find was just like what is the characteristics of the mind or what the feelings, or more of the soul, because like it seems like when a cult is formed, its sole purpose is to grab as many souls and feed off the energy until it dies, pretty much. I mean, it feels like every cult has died.
That would go along with the virus.
Yeah, like eventually it's got to
metaphor as well.
die. It's got to go. So there's a couple things here that I thought that these types of mentalities they share, like what the inner world of these people might be. So here, we'll check this one out.
And many arose not to exploit their followers, but to help them survive in the face of an external threat.
The collective's very sense of self is under attack by the world, and the only way to salvage one's identity is to come together under the leadership of this charismatic authority and to rebuild from scratch.
I think that was part of the one that you played.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and what I grabbed from that was the external threat, the idea. Did they say that in the beginning? Ay.
I know it throws a lot at you. Where you're,
yeah, but there was also this one too. But the external threat, I mean, that one I feel obvious. There's the
that's
external
pretty
threat.
clear. Yeah,
and the cult provides protection from that. So as long as we're all taking the jab in the cult, we'll be protected no matter what. No matter if we spread it, no matter if we get it, no matter what, we'll still be protected.
Yeah,
because science is awesome. So
I fucking love science.
I fucking love it. Here's another one.
Thousands of seekers, most of them from broken or unstable families, and already emotionally wounded, are becoming victims of the gurus.
Let's listen to that again.
Thousands of seekers, most of them from broken or unstable families, and already emotionally wounded.
From broken or unstable families and already emotionally wounded. And I feel like the second part of that, for us in America here, 4 years of Trump, I think, emotionally wounded a whole lot of people.
Oh yeah, by 2020 it was like,
sad.
Give it up.
Sad. Did not see that coming.
Oh,
I saw the emotional woundedness coming.
Yeah.
I saw that, but I did not see the exploitation of that. And
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point.
yeah, it's a great identifier, I think.
Well, I think we've identified a trend of the victimhood mindset with a lot of people who just love to virtue signal about how much they've pretty much destroyed their own lives by staying inside for months on end, not seeing anybody, wearing a mask indoors by themselves, or going, just doing all of these rituals that allow them to also feel righteous, which a self-righteous victimhood, I think, is a very dangerous mindset, because what you can justify in the name of righting the wrongs of your, there's a couple different layers to it going on, but it's interesting to see like the wounded people who were before COVID, who were wounded, whether with trauma in their life or Trump derangement syndrome or whatever it is, which is a form of trauma for people. Like they were very susceptible to jumping off the COVID cliff, as it were, and not looking back.
Yeah, they were ready. It was almost like they were so ready that as soon as they said 2 weeks to flatten the curve, you knew it wasn't going to be 2 weeks.
Right.
You knew.
Well, think about it. They already were living in a new normal. And I say this as somebody that I didn't vote for either party in either election, but
Same.
I was never traumatized by Trump. I just was kind of like, this is absurd, and I think it's somewhat entertaining to witness. But for a lot of people, they were already in the new normal of like the Orange Man virus. So when COVID came around, it was like, oh, it's a new normal that isn't so much based around how messed up the world is because of Trump. It's about, we're all going to come together and we're all going to fight the virus. So it was almost like also a coping strategy, I almost think, for some people. It provided meaning. Also, it's an election year, so all those people were primed to be like, I remember very early on, like this is like the week before everything shut down, like for a St. Patrick's Day party, talking to a friend's mom who is like very much a Democrat. And I remember talking to her about the COVID stuff, and the glee in her eyes was pretty bizarre when she was like, I really hope this hurts Trump's reelection. It's like, but you do realize that by you saying that, you're almost hoping that it's really bad, right? But like, it was like that acknowledgement that like, did she vocalize that was like, I hope this takes down Trump, which clearly that was, that some people say it's the only reason for COVID. I don't believe that, but it certainly didn't help him. So
he was collateral damage, I think.
It was a much bigger thing going on than just Trump. But I just thought that was so interesting, because it was like, finally we got something to like, at that point I think most people would have agreed like Trump was going to win. And, we can get into the whole thing of what, the whole election thing, but outside of that, just like, I think it was pretty clear. And
he had the momentum.
Oh yeah.
Big
and then
time.
the golden goose, that like, how could you, and so all the people that I think went full, and it's not the case across the board, but I would say the vast majority of people who are in the cult are on the left. I think that's pretty obvious.
Yes.
And for a lot of the reasons that like, it just made sense for the political sense, and what we were just talking about with Trump derangement syndrome trauma. And also they tend to be more of the, you see the signs, I believe in science. Like that's kind of their religion. So they were all primed for it. And then, you get Billy Gates coming in there, and there you go. So it's quite a thing to witness this last year and a half. I think we're both hoping, I don't want to speak for you, but it's pretty like we're both hoping that the cult slows down at some point, or gets loses momentum or burns itself out.
I just want to be included in the new normal and have my own thoughts be respected.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what it's going to be. And that's also an interesting thing too, is when they're talking about cults, I forget which characteristic it was, either one you were reading or me, but it was about a utopia. And it's like that slogan, Build Back Better, promises a utopia.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that got me, in which I was like, Build Back Better. I mean, that sounds so stupid, because why don't we just stop destroying? Is kind of how I felt. Like, stop destroying small businesses, stop destroying people's pensions, stop destroying all that, furloughing people's jobs, their livelihood. Just stop doing that. You don't have to build anything. Just stop.
But Scott, oh shit! Oh no, you cut that out.
Got it.
We'll cut.
Yeah.
But like people don't see that. They don't see that part. Like they just think that the virus,
right, the external
is the
threat.
thing that destroy the. Yeah. Well, if Trump just had taken the measures that we needed, then we wouldn't have had to do all these things that destroyed small business, or we could be like Canada. And wait, Canada didn't help small business really that much either.
Right.
They don't even. But I don't get it, man. It's like, how do they not acknowledge that part of it? But
I wonder if it is to their disadvantage to acknowledge it. And what I mean by that is if there's an external threat, and it seems like in this cult that we're discussing, there's two external threats. There's the virus, and then there's Trump, who needs to go out. And one is false, or a lot of people consider false. But I think what I meant by false is that we've discussed that it's really only seen in reality on TV or the internet. But what I mean, I don't know, I lost my train of thought there, but what I was trying to say was that by taking Trump as a external threat, it's almost as though to say the virus doesn't exist is to lose that. It's just everybody goes along with whatever measures are needed if the utopia promised to them is a country without Trump as president.
Yeah.
And so therefore the gleam in the eye of your Democratic mom there, it's almost as if that was the decision made. Everybody saw that opportunity is the one way to get him out, because impeachment had just failed. There was no other. He had the momentum even coming out of that impeachment. Yeah. So there was no way he was going to get out. And this was the one way. And it's like everyone just turned off any sense of reason.
Isn't it funny how those people are still the ones who will almost always say, like, well, yeah, the virus has been politicized. And it's like, a lot of the people who are on the skeptic side aren't even bringing up left or right, whatever, but it's all the people on the team COVID side that are the ones who are actually politicizing it.
Yes.
But they don't acknowledge that side of it. They just think that, just because anyone who disagrees with Fauci is clearly doing it for a political reason.
Yeah, they're far right.
Yeah.
So if you disagree with somebody, it's politicized by the people saying it's being politicized. Yeah, I'm fully aware of whenever I hear that happening. Yeah.
And like, hey, the people that are going against the science trademark are doing that because they're trying to get their guy in, which I think a lot of people have pointed out the fact that, most of what the left does is projection. I think we can all kind of see that to some degree, but so it's, I don't know, not to how we want to wrap.
Let's wrap it up. Let's see.
We're getting to like an hour. I think this has been a good first go at podcasting. I'm excited to see where we take it from here. But like with cults, it's a large topic. Like,
I know.
I mean, we literally, I'm sure you and I could go on for another couple hours. And I think in order to do that, we need more clips. So,
yeah, for sure. If anybody is listening to this far through, I'm also very excited to keep this going to get feedback from other people and their ideas, because I'm sure we're not the only ones out here thinking and feeling this way and having these sort of thoughts that don't align with the two sides, I guess. The two, because I would like to understand, maybe is there a cult on the right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that strategy of tension mentioned using, you know, government intelligence agencies to foment a strategy of tension between the left and the right, the ones that want the government, the Marxists, you know, the Marxists, versus the, what did they call them, the para something, neo-fascist extra paramilitary groups, which is no government, almost your neo-fascist anarchists. But let's wrap, and we got to get an email address too, so people can contact us. But we can discuss that later. But let's wrap on this last clip, and I want to see if you can identify the word that is used that made me want to clip this.
Purpose.
The group was Nexium, and its unified purpose was self-improvement, using a patented method of rational inquiry for executive success, led by a man named Keith Raniere. But the claim that Raniere had one of the world's highest IQs, the way students had to bow to a picture of him on the wall, and how they had to call him the Vanguard, unsettled Catherine.
Purpose? Is that what I'm...
Purpose is close. That was the first thing you said. Although that was probably could have been cut out, but purpose definitely. But Vanguard? They were required to call him Vanguard. And I don't know much about this Nexium cult. I heard it came out like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I feel like I remember hearing about it, but I never looked into the guy. But apparently they had to call him the Vanguard.
Yeah, the HBO had a really good documentary about Nexium. But yeah, he was known as the Vanguard. I think because of like a pinball machine is what he said. It was kind of made it like a joke. You know, like for people to have to call him Vanguard, and it was just like his favorite pinball game.
Okay,
is what he claimed. That could be just a front for some other reason, but
yeah, that sounds obvious. Deflection.
But so you're bringing up Vanguard in relation to like COVID stuff, or
no? Just a word associated with cults. There's a lot of things, and this will be something maybe I can bring to you in the form of a clip bag or something, maybe a small satchel of clips. For the next one, or maybe a couple after this, is just as I was going through stuff today, I noticed a lot of common language according to cults, and Vanguard was one of them. And the definition that I have here for Vanguard is a group of people leading the way in new developments or ideas.
Well, that definitely sounds like a new normal to me.
Indeed. So, I don't know. I think it's been a pleasure to talk to you. So, I think we can...
Yeah, well, I look forward to doing it again real soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Take care.